Hi everyone, hope you guys are all having a great day today. Today's video, I'm going to cover the whole entire market in terms of Dow Jones, Nasdaq, and S&P 500, including the economic calendar. I do post these videos daily, so double check on X and YouTube for the latest videos, so that way you have the most up-to-date information. And before I get to the technicals, I'm going to go through the economic calendar. And for Tuesday, July 9th, 2024, at 6 a.m., we have NFIB optimism index. 9:15 a.m., we have Fed Vice Chair for Supervision Barr speak. 10 a.m. we have Fed Chair Jerome Powell testimony to Senate. And at 1:30 p.m. we have Fed Governor Michelle Bowman introductory remarks. Now the thing is though, this week is jam-packed, by the way. Just a little bit of a glimpse. We have Jerome Powell speaking again to the House tomorrow on the Wednesday. And then Thursday we have CPI inflation numbers coming out. And then Friday we have PPI inflation numbers coming out as well. So be on the lookout for that. It's going to be a pretty bumpy week potentially. The VIX is low, so volatility index is low. Technically not necessarily anticipating a drop. And if we look at the MAC lines for example, the S&P 500 and Nasdaq, I'm going to look at SPY, which is an ETF for the S&P 500, so same thing, and QQQ as well, which is an ETF for Nasdaq, so same thing as well. If you look at the 1 month chart, MAC line, in case you're a new viewer, indicates if it's a bearish or bullish movement. So 1 month chart right now, we are in the bullish movement, so indicating further upside. 3 month chart, a little bit more longer term, somewhat. It's curving up to the upside, even though it's bearish, it's anticipating to cross over. 6 month chart, it is on the downside, bearish movement, but it's trying to arch up. So you could see that solid red, light red, trying to arch up. And then the 1 year chart, it's in the bullish movement. So the way I see it for, this is the SPY, S&P 500, I see it still going up, but relatively somewhat, maybe for example, tomorrow's trading day is going to somewhat consolidate a little bit, nothing crazy. For Nasdaq, so QQQ, ETF, just going to go through it as well. I'm going to go into them in terms of support and resistance, but just quickly looking over the MAC lines. 1 month chart showing the bullish movement to the upside. 3 month chart showing the same thing as the S&P 500, but a little bit more closer of a crossover. And then the 6 month as well, it's pretty close too, but it's a little bit more of a close crossover. So it's bearish, but still trying to cross over to a bullish. And then the 1 year, it's already in the bullish. So the way I see it, same thing as S&P 500, going to the upside, but potentially somewhat of a consolidation day tomorrow, somewhat, but more to the upside overall. Now for Dow Jones, it's painting a little bit of a different picture. If you look at the 1 month, it's in the bearish movement, but it doesn't necessarily look like it's going to cross over somewhat relatively soon, potentially. And then the 3 month, it's in the bearish movement, not really much of a crossover. 6 month chart, it's about to get into the bearish movement. And then the 1 year chart, it's in the bullish, but it's kind of looks like it kind of wants to somewhat come down. So it's for the Dow Jones a little bit different. I don't think it'll slightly go up, but it'll go to a higher level that I'm going to mention soon. But ultimately, I think it's going to start dipping down a little bit. The only reason I wouldn't say too much is personally because the volatility index doesn't seem to be rising anytime soon. So I don't think anything is going to be crazy. And plus, we're within this channel still. Now I'm going to go back through the S&P 500 first, and then give the support and resistance levels, and then go through that. Or actually, I'll do QQQ first, and then I'll go through SPY and all stuff. So in terms of QQQ, basically for the most part, the level that I mentioned earlier still holds true in terms of resistance, and that is right now we're at $497.34, and the level that's going to act as resistance is the 500 basically. The 498 is going to act as resistance, but the $500 is going to be resistance. Now because it's pointing to the upside, I'll have to assess that based off of Fibonacci scale later on, but we'll see, because it depends on Jerome Powell's testimony still, or like speech for tomorrow. But in terms of support levels on the downside, we have support at the 494, and then the moving average is at 492 and some change. And then ultimately you could expect support at the 490, and I'm basing that off of a little bit of a consolidation right about here with that drop right there, that clean drop, so 490 and some change. But I think we would head down to this moving average, which this horizontal support level / it was resistance actually, to be honest. There's 1, 2, 3 touch points. You could argue this is a 4th touch point, plus the moving average. I think it'll act as support, and that would be 487. Will we see it? I don't think so, just because the indication is more to the upside personally, but there's that. Now in terms of SPY, which is the ETF for S&P 500, for this one's a little bit different. For some reason, unless I'm doing it wrong, based off the Fibonacci scale, it looks like the resistance could be the 557. Right now we're at $555.28, and 557 technically should be resistance. But the problem is, again, indications pointing more to the upside. A little bit of consolidation, so maybe the 557 will hold and it will dip down, and then the 557 will be tested again. We'll see, and then break through, because the indications ultimately are pointing to the upside. But if we do drop down the support, we're looking at pretty much around the ballpark of 554 and some change. And then the next support level will be the moving average at 552 and some change. And then I'm expecting that potentially this could hold right here, where we saw resistance one time here, second resistance, and then somewhat of a support spike drop right here. So that's roughly about 550 and some change. Will we go lower? I don't think so, because the indications again are pointing to the upside. If we do go lower, we could hopefully be supported by this moving average of 549 and some change. And then you could kind of see a little bit of a resistance potential consolidation phase right about here. So not really the greatest line. I would have to double check it, but got resistance, and then somewhat support. Maybe not the greatest line personally, but that's about 548 and some change. But we'll see. Now, in terms of Dow Jones is within this channel. This dates back since 2021, upward trend resistance line, and then this is 2024 April upward trend support line. And this limit right here that I mentioned in the past, we're right now about 39,344 points. And the upper limit is about, not upper limit, but resistance level that we need to break through first is about the 39,600, 39,650 points, give or take. And once we pass that, the next limit is pretty much about 39,900, 39,800 the upper end, but pretty much 39,900. But I don't think we're going to pass that anytime soon, because based off the MAC lines, like I stated before, the Dow Jones kind of shows against from the S&P and Nasdaq that it's potentially going to go to the downside a little bit. So it might test again the 39,600, 39,650 again, but ultimately maybe come down to these moving averages at 39,200 and some points, 39,100 and some points on the low end. Both of them are on the low end, by the way. So 39,223 points, 39,119 points, and then this moving average at 38,885 points. Now, if you think this upward trend support level is going to be tested really soon, you're looking at 38,279 points, and this upper limit is about, if I adjust it, you're looking at, depending on when we hit it, obviously, because the longer it takes, the higher the high will be, and the lower the low, or the higher the low will be as well. You're looking at roughly about 40,260 points, give or take, just ballpark. But that's basically it for today's video. If you guys did find it beneficial, consider dropping a like. It does help with the channel, so thank you so much for that. I do post these videos daily, so consider subscribing so you'll be notified when I do post my next video. And thanks again for watching. Appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Peace.